Hey guys, what's crackin'? Godsman here, coming at you with yet another Clan Collection reveal set. Now, this time around, we've got quite an exciting episode because, I'll be real with you, I'm really hyped for this one. Everything we're gonna review today is good. Good cards, great cards, and the clans I like, so, your boy's pretty hyped to go over all these. Now, you guys know the drill by now. I've done quite a few of these. This is somehow the first video you've watched me, then, do be sure to check out some of the other review videos or fight nights or yada yada, right? Anyway, let's get right down to business. So, starting today, we've got a Dimension Police card, the final Dimension Police reveal for this set, actually. And they chose Enigman Storm. Yeah, this is actually kind of a surprise because for those of you who know, this was originally a ride line. So to think that for like a ride chain, ride line type of thing, we're only getting the grade 3 without getting the 2 and the 1 to accompany it. Yeah, that's kind of strange, but let's look at my boy Storm because he's pretty good still. So Storm's got 2 effects. The first one being a continuous that it gets 5k during your turn for each card with Enigman in your soul. Okay. Second effect is an auto on Van once per turn. At the start of the attack step, meaning it won't count your booster's effects, if this unit's power is 20k or greater, it gets critical +1. If it's 35k or greater, it gets drive +1. If it's 50k or greater, then it gets the following skill, which is that at the end of the battle that it attacked, you pitch 2 from hand to stand it up, but your drive increases or decreases to 0. Okay, so at first glance, this would seem basico or just bad, but let's go over the nitty-gritty here a little bit because Enigman Storm's actually pretty good. So for one thing, yes, it is going to get better because it is a part of a ride line, but we don't have the rest of the ride line. So far the only way it's going to get 5k with cards and souls if you like persona ride it or something. So yeah, so far it's not going to buff itself up very much. However, even in the here and now, we can still buff it up a lot with things like Twin Order and Kaizard and things of that nature, right? Dizaurus as well. Dizaurus is a good combo piece. I'll go into that a little bit more. But the biggest combo piece with Enigman Storm is Brad Black. Right, Brad Black, that dude, you know, a really good Dimensional Police Vanguard for V. As we went over earlier with the Reverse Dayusha reveals, you can now achieve 3 Vanguard attacks in Dimension Police, thanks to the combination of the Great Dayusha and Reverse Dayusha. Well, as it would so happen, we now have another way of getting 3 Vanguard attacks in a turn in this clan by combining Brad Black and Enigman Storm, see? Because you just swing with Brad Black first, and then you ride into a Storm, use Storm's effects to restand. Now, of course, when you do this, Storm needs to be at 50k or greater, so you're probably going to need something like a Twin Order or Dizaurus to help meet the condition. But it is definitely feasible. It is pretty secure that you can do it, because when you combine the effects of Brad Black and just the very nature of being able to get an extra ride to accumulate force markers in the Vanguard circle, you're going to hit the 50k threshold fairly easily. Now, of course, there's some upsides and some downsides with this. Now, one of the downsides, just to start with the bad, is that it's somewhat costly because, of course, you're pitching 2 cards from hand for a restand that doesn't net you any drives on its own. So you've essentially... It's somewhat of a free attack when you think about it, but you have sort of negated the advantage of it. But let's be real, you are gaining a drive with Enigman's skill if you can pitch 2 in the first place. So it's not a neg-2, it's just a neg-1. And of course, Brad Black sort of pays for this in a sense, because when you use Brad Black, of course, you're pitching 2 from hand after his twin drive, but then you get to add a grade 3, so that's a +1. And doing all the math, it ends up being a -1 for a 3 attack combo, but it is still a -1 versus, say, the other 3 attack combo with D-Robos, which is a +1 in card advantage in total. So yeah, that is something to mention. But we have some upsides with this, a lot of upsides. Critical thing here, this is faster. Whereas with the D-Robo combo, you have to wait at minimum to turn 4 because you cannot have ridden that turn in order to use the Great Dayusha. Here's the thing, this doesn't care about that. Brad only cares that the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. So if you're going second, you can hit Brad and then go into Storm, easy peasy. And another thing that's a really nice benefit is it doesn't cost counterblast. They can't CV starve you for it. Brad and Enigman are just based on discards. That's the only cost, and they can't exactly restrict you from that. Albeit D Police doesn't have a ton of card advantage, it's at least a resource that you're self-reliant on. So yeah, your opponent can't deny it, and you are not going to slow down for it. That's pretty good. Now, another thing to mention on top of this is when you just look at this, right, and you just look at it kind of objectively, Enigman Storm is somewhat splashable because yes, it can work for Brad Black, and it works pretty well. Getting the crit is cool as a pressure extender. It's also nice because by getting the drive, the fact that you lose a drive on Brad, it now evens out and you just go back to getting a twin drive, meaning that even if you don't do the restand for the third Vanguard attack, you've essentially plussed at that point for 2 big Vanguard swings. This is D Police, after all. But then flexibility continues because you can use things like Dizaurus. By using Dizaurus, after this thing becomes drive 0, you can then restand it, don't attack with it immediately. Swing with Dizaurus next, use Dizaurus skill to suck it back up into the soul, give this guy another 10k and a drive, meaning that for the second swing, it's back to drive checking once, which is really cool for your card advantage. That's great as well. And perhaps one of the biggest, sackiest things you can do here is, in addition to running Brad with Enigman, you can run the Great Dayusha. Yeah, we can actually take a page out of the book of D-Robo here and use Great Dayusha. Because on turn 4, all you have to do is swing with Enigman twice and then ride in the Great Dayusha. This is cool as well because it's fairly cost effective. Sure, it's just 1 CP, but Great Dayusha, as we all know, is a +1 because just for using 1 card in hand, you've essentially got another twin drive available and a lot of power buffs to like just to boot. So yeah, this all told means that Storm is definitely splashable. It enables triple attack. It's a simply absurd cost where it's pitch 2. Easy. Easy. No CB, no Soul Blast, no condition, no nothing. Just pitch 2. Cool. The only thing that's a little bit difficult about it, other than I suppose you can say the card advantage aspect of it, is getting it to 50k super consistently. Have a lot of buffers, but it can feel a little bit like a chore if you're in a really, really bad state. But if you're in a really, really bad state, guess what? Don't get the restand. Just get your extra crit and your extra drive and have a good day. Boot. And also just rely on other grade 3s such as Brad and Great Dayusha in those kind of cases. So yeah, Storm, super versatile, and simplicity is its greatest strength. And I just cannot wait to see what the grade 2 and the grade 1 Enigmans do to buff up Storm, because it's already looking pretty good, y'all, I gotta say. And speaking of looking pretty good, that's a similar sentiment for the next reveals. See you there. And welcome back. So, it's the Gear Chronicles turn, baby. Oh yeah, we got the new gears. And what's this? A grade for Uluru? Yeah, it's retroactive Time Maiden Uluru, along with, of course, a couple of the Steam Maiden support cards. This, oh my god, when I saw this, I fanboyed so hard. We actually have a G-Guard, boys. It's here. Our girl is back and she's grown up. Love it so much, and the effect is awesome and surprisingly generic. Let's get into it though. Okay, so starting off with the grade 1, we've got Storm Cruising Gear Cat. Indeed, it's a Steam Maiden card that is not a Steam Maiden, but let's go into how that is. 2 skills. First one being that when it's placed on banner rear, you reveal top 3 cards of the deck. You can take up to 1 Steam Maiden from among them, add it to the hand, and bot deck the rest. Cool. Second effect, when it boosts, it gets 1k for each card in your bind zone until the end of that battle. Pretty good generic stuff here, just good searcher all around. The fact that it isn't a Steam Maiden is a little bit annoying, but let's keep in mind that this add effect is not once per turn. So it's really easy just to pop it down and get a +1. It's a very free +1. So the fact that it only peeps 3 can be a little bit tough because you don't have like that many Steam Maidens. We actually technically only have 1 new Steam Maiden in this lineup, but hey, it's free, so you don't lose anything in the exchange. You just plop down this thing, which is also a decent booster, right? It's not like a vanilla afterwards, it still has stats. So yeah, Storm Cruising Gear Cat, not much to say other than it's a staple in the deck, you're gonna run it. Next up is Steam Maiden and Alana. So Alana is a Steam Maiden, actually, so that's cool. And what does she do? Well, great things. When she's placed on Vanguard rear, first effect, you CB1 in order to search the deck for our boy the cat, and you call into the rear in the same column as it, so specifically in that column. So it's a lot like old mana that way. The second effect is at the end of the battle that attacked while boosted, mind you. You Soul Blast one to reveal the top 2 cards of the deck. You can choose up to 1 to add to your hand, and you bind the rest. So this is somewhat like the grade 2 Dungry support effect, but in reverse, where that one was a ride over and you could add either both to the hand or bind one and add one to hand. This one is the opposite. This one is after it's done attacking while boosted, you can potentially get 2 binds, or you can +1 and bind 1. Generally speaking, you want to +1 and bind 1 because in initial testing, yes, it's only been basically a day, and I've already done some testing with my boy who actually likes this deck a lot. You need the card advantage. You don't get that much card advantage in this deck. Like, you get enough that it's serviceable, but more is always good. So this card, in of itself, achieving both of its effects is a +2. That's phenomenal. And it's a Steam Maiden name. And it can actually combo, because the win place can even be when it's from the bind zone. And of course, by using this effect, if you have, say, a fractured bind line, as I'll call it, an attack chain for your bind zone, this can be your last ditch effort to try to help with that, because not only can you call the cat, but by binding a card off top 2, you might be able to get that missing grade that you were hoping for to try and mend your attack chain. So overall, Entalana, just again, it's another staple. You're gonna run it. Now here comes the big reveal: Retroactive Time Maiden Uluru. Yeah, good review. I know a lot of people wanted a reverse. They wanted Lost Legend support. They wanted to see even a reverse Time Maiden, right? I mean Steam Maiden. We didn't get none of that. We didn't. But I just think the fact that we got a G Garden V is also something to marvel at in of itself. So I'm not that disappointed, to be honest. Let's keep in mind, reverses lore-wise shouldn't be in Gear Chronicle. I know. That's sad to hear, and I'm being kind of a stickler by saying that, but it's true. So, let's just enjoy what we got and go over Uluru, right? So, 3 effects on Uluru. First one being that when she's placed on the Guardian Circle, you can choose a unit, any unit from your drop, so no orders, and you either bot deck it or bind it. You're probably gonna bind it. And it gets 25k shield until the end of that battle. The second effect is when your Vanguard is attacked, so specifically only when your Vanguard is attacked. You pitch a heal from hand and call this card to Guardian Circle from the drop zone. Third effect, when it's retired from Guardian Circle, bind this unit. So yeah, clearly we can see the Steam Maiden influence here, right? Being able to bind this card and bind a card from your drop not only helps build up your attack chain from your bind zone, but adding Uluru to the pile is important, because keep in mind, fellas, this is a grade 4. So now you actually have 2 ways of achieving the maximum multi-attack number. Originally you only had 1 way, which was to hit from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. But now what you can do is you can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And technically speaking, that is a more powerful attack chain. You don't get the counter charge with this attack chain, but for 2 counterblast, it is, 10k more powerful. So really take it or leave it, right? It's just more ways of maximizing the number of attacks in case you're missing a 0. So yeah, who can complain about that? It's a strong shield. It's actually got the same shield value as what the original Retroactive Time Maiden did, and it has the ability to recycle cards. So it's very faithful. Now, in Steam Maiden's way you run this, yeah, in preliminary testing, it's definitely very, very crucial to run this in Steam Maidens. It's a very well-made card. The fact that it's not a Steam Maiden hurts a bit, but it doesn't hurt enough for you to not run it. And it's a cool surprise option, right? Because, of course, from the drop, pitching a heal gives you kind of a stronger attack. In Steam Maidens, this is only 5k more, but in a lot of other gear decks, this is going to be 10k more, because a lot of them are going to run the grade 3, because, you're going back to the striding, quote-unquote, method with that. And speaking of other gear variants, how good is Uluru in other gear variants? Well, it depends. Her ability to bind herself another unit makes her potentially worth it in Mystery Flare. maybe. It's a little bit hard to negotiate a grade 4 spot, but if you're just dedicated to the Mystery Flare and nothing else, you could just be running Mystery Flare in this, and then there you go, right? Or you can be running Mystery Flare, maybe a couple Idealized and a couple of this. You know, it's just a neat thing, right? So I can see that happening. In Chronojet, it's probably not going to see play, but it is a strong defensive unit, so there's potential. I just don't see it in Chronojet because you're already so chock full of like grade 4s that you want to run, right? Time Leaper, Next Stage, and even Chronos Command potentially. So all told, it's probably not going to be in that variant, and I don't even know if Chrono Tiger would run this. Chrono Tiger is just so focused on like the kill as quickly as possible. I don't even know if they want to save space to potentially survive to next turn. They don't want there to be a next turn, you know? So yeah, Uluru is potentially generic in terms of bind-based gears, but not really more with the discard pseudo-stride gears that we have with Tiger and Dragon. In Premium, this is a different story. In Premium, this is really, really nice because you synergize so well with Binding and Premium and Time Leaping that there's just so many different combinations. Gears is a lot like Spikes in that department where the combo potential is infinite, potentially. So yeah, this being such a unique card is to its benefit in Premium Gears. So yeah, Uluru's got a ton of potential, and just overall, this package is a huge boost to the Steam Maiden subclan. Now, Steam Maidens were essentially unplayable prior to this, so that may not be saying much, but at least now they're a decent deck. They lack a win condition in my opinion, and no, Colossus I don't think is enough to qualify as a win condition. So if they got a win con next set, that would basically round it up nicely and make a really nice viable deck. But as for now, you know, at least it's playable. It's really nice and playable, so really well done here. They're giving gears their due. Oh, also, we're getting 0 art of Chronojet Dragon. Yeah, baby, that's cool. That's the stuff. They really gave Gear Chronicle its due this set. Alright, well, enough fangirling over that. It's on to the last reveals of the night. See you there. Okay then, time for the final reveals of the night. So, we've got the 2 remaining cards for Spikes, and we got a duo of grade 3s for this one. Duo. Now, let's start with this guy. If we thought Uluru being like the first ever like G-Guard was already like a shocker enough, Bushy decided to give us another G-Guard retrain, although this one doesn't quite feel like a straight up G-Guard like Uluru does. I'll go more into that. So we've got Juggernaut Maximum, and then over here we've got an oldie but a goodie. Skydiver finally comes back in, the first Spike Brothers Vanguard to my understanding. And it took him this long to get him, but at least he's here, right? So, welcome back, Skydiver. Let's go over their effects. So, starting with Juggernaut Maximum. For those of you who know, this was, I believe, the first, or at least one of the first G-Guards for Spike Brothers. So, it's cool to have him here. Now, what does he do? So, Maximum has 2 effects. The first one being a really interesting ban-only skill, which is that at the beginning of either player's main phase, remember, either player's main phase, if the opponent's grade is 3 or greater, you get this ability, which is continuous. All of your units placed this turn get 5k power and 5k shield until end of turn. Okay, go over that later. Maximum is the second skill though. Ban only again, so clearly meant to be a grade 3 Vanguard, unlike Uluru, which was just a grade 4 defensive unit, ironically, right? But also not ironically, because again, G-Guarding. This is what Maximum does. Ban once per turn. At the end of the battle we're attacked, if you have 4 or more rear guards that were placed this turn, or rather, if 4 or more rear guards were placed this turn, they don't have to be currently in the field at the time of activation. You Soul Blast 3 and stand a rear guard column, or even the Vanguard column. You just stand a column. Now, if you do choose to stand the Vanguard column, he's going to get -1 drive, and you have to put all of your rear guards on the bottom of the deck at the end of the turn. Okay, so of course, when discussing Maximum, let me be real here. Rising Nova is a thing. And Rising Nova contextualized things like for Spikes ever since the day it was made. Because when you look at a grade 3, you have to understand, how does it combo with Rising? And this can combo with Rising. The fact that it's at the beginning of either player's main phase for the continuous skill, or it's technically an auto skill that gives you continuous skill, that does temper its value with Rising, because Rising is like during the main phase that it copies grade 3, so you won't get that effect. Sure, you can get the Soul Blast 3 to like restand, and on a Force 1, Force 2, or as I like to call it, the football, that can be devastating, because again, 10k in a crit for those restands is like just more value, more offensive pressure, but you're Soul Blasting 3 for it. Keeping in mind that you Soul Blast 1 just to get the copy skill of Rising Nova, that's 4 Soul Blasts. Spikes can get Soul, but they're still gonna feel that. Yeah, I don't know if Maximum is generally worth it. And also Maximum as a standalone deck doesn't feel like it's quite worth it yet either. So it could be a tech choice in Rising. My Spikes brain is like adolescent at this point. I'm only more recently starting to get into the clan. So I can't quite tell you what in V this thing's applications are. In Premium, this thing's pretty cool because defensively speaking, all of your units essentially get plus 5k shield. That's nice. That's very nice. That does make it a defensive unit, but bearing in mind the fact that Rising Nova is still really nice, you probably want to Persona ride Rising Nova as much as you can, but if not, then at least you've got Maximum to fall back on. You can also use the Bad End combo, the Bad End Good End combo to try and superior ride into Maximum, so that's also another option. So overall, it's kind of middling. It could see niche play, but I think I see potential with this first effect. It's balanced against Nova, which you have to do, but it's still cool. Anyway, moving on to Skydiver. So the last card of our night is also, ironically, the first card of this clan. Skydiver's got 2 skills, and my boy starts with a really amazing auto ability, which is that on Vanguard Rear, you choose up to 2 normal units when this unit's placed. And those normal units from drop. So let me rephrase. When this unit is placed on Vanguard Rear, choose up to 2 normal units from your drop and put them on the bottom of the deck in any order. You get 5k power till end of turn for each card put to the bottom of your deck this way. The second skill is sort of the generic spike skill at this point, which is that at the beginning of your main phase, you can put this unit into your soul in order to call another Skydiver from the deck. So this is a little bit trippy, right? Because I do like Skydiver. Now, Skydiver doesn't engage multi-attack like the old version did, and I'm quite surprised about that. It felt a little disingenuous to the original to not engage in the multi-attack. But that said, it's a cool recycle, guys. This thing, very similar to the Juggernaut Maximum in V, is a 23k attacker. Now, with Juggernaut Maximum, you don't have to put back 2. With this one, you do in order to get it to an extra 10k. So it comes down to a basic question. Because again, the second skill is basically what both Juggernaut Maximum and Skydiver has, put themselves in the soul and then call it a card from the deck. So when you're comparing these two, you just ask yourself, is bot decking normal units from your drop zone a good thing or a bad thing? Recycling is great, although not only does it make your deck like less trigger oriented, because you're filtering out with more normal units a la Jewel Knights, but also you're not always going to necessarily have good like normal unit targets in the drop zone, if even 2 in the beginning. That could be concerning. That can make this weaker. So is it good or is it bad? That's a good question. I think Skydiver not having any costs other than just putting back the 2 units, and that's not even a cost, it's optional. I mean, hey, you can take it or leave it, right? I like Skydiver. I personally think recycling is a strong point of Spikes, because not having to worry about deck out and always having units from the deck to be able to call back during the battle phase makes it like a very consistent and perpetual motion machine, if you will. So Skydiver is great that way. He's not quite as simple as Jugs, because you just call Jugs, you just want that 23, easy peasy. It's very similar like how Bracky's the same way. Skydiver is a little bit more complicated. Skydiver's a little bit for the toolbox, but hey, he's still cool nonetheless. And yeah, so overall Spikes kind of ending off on, it's a decent note, right? Like, I think these are cool utility cards in Spikes, because at first they seem like, okay, they're neat, but let's just look at what you get here. This one has defensive values, which is like something that spikes are just weak at. Defense and spikes is weak sauce. We just recently got Fiona with helps, but then, yeah, that's Fiona, right? Sure, Gloria in a similar light is also a defensive unit, but it's so precious little. So Maximum is cool, and it's not just a defensive unit because it does have the Soul Blast through the restand thing. So you can build a deck around Maximum necessarily. It may not be worth it, but it's there. So I like the concept of that one. And Skydiver focuses on the recycling aspect, whereas Maximum is on the defensive aspect. So rather than make this deck more offensive, they're trying to round it out with more options and trying to patch it up, because Spikes has already been more extraordinary offensively speaking. It didn't need more offense because you're just making a glass cannon more cannony and more glass. So the direction of these is really nice. They understand what they're doing with this, and I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I hope to see what Spikes get in the next set, because as it stands, these are more like generic stuff. These aren't like bosses necessarily. Like Maximum is kind of a boss, if you will, and so he's the closest to a boss we got in this set. So I wonder what they're gonna go for the next set, right? They can really go anywhere at this point. Spikes is so toolboxy and has like sporadic bits of like support and like sub clans. Not a lot of sub clans. I mean, Dudley's like the big one, right? So really the gate's wide open. So I'm really excited to see what they do next. Because again, your boy's just starting to get in Spikes, you know, just a bit. Well, that's gonna do it for today. A lot of cool reviews, a lot of me fangirling over these reviews, especially with Uluru. Like, I'm still gonna just be in awe of the majesty of Uluru. Not everyone is super hyped about it, but you know what? I am. And those of you who are also hyped about it, you're a real one. Now, that said, if you want to see more Vanguard content like this, do subscribe down below and also comment on this video if you thought there's anything I missed about these reviews, or if you want to suggest other content for me to do in the future. And with that, take care and God bless.